Off-roading for me, for some reason, it's like way more intense and adrenaline than it is to go drifting for some reason. Like I can go off-roading and just be scared shitless. I'll jump into a drift car and be first lap out and I'll just be like, oh, that was fun. I'm off-roading and I'm literally just pouring sweat with the AC on. All right, this is my new to me 2004 Ford Excursion turbo diesel 4-wheel drive. I bought this 6 months ago. I took a chance, went to Santa Clarita, sight unseen, outside of a couple pictures. The paint looked better than I thought when I picked it up, but I was like, it's all good. There's not a whole lot of Excursions with this mileage and the options, it being a limited, so it's leather with captain's chairs in the middle so the girls stay apart and they actually have their own space to deal with. It does have the third row seating. My 5-6-year-old, she loves it back there when we have more company. People can sit in the captain's chairs. She goes in the back, has all the space she wants, and she just loves it. I got such a big SUV because most of you don't know, I did get in a rear-end car accident. I got rear-ended by a drunk driver in Mabel's Subaru Outback. Unfortunately, that totaled it. So that day, we actually went to Buttonwillow Raceway for the first time in the GR Corolla. I was driving my truck for almost 10 hours that day. I was really over it. My dad called me. He's like, hey, we got a flat tire on the 55 freeway on Catella right by your house. Can you just come help us get off the freeway? I was like, oh, shit, I don't feel like driving my truck. I was like, hey, Mabel, can I borrow your Subaru? And for those of you that don't know, me and Mabel have been together for 10 years now, coming this year. So she's like, yeah, no problem. We're on the same insurance policy and everything. So it's like, whatever, who cares? I go to meet up with my parents. We start getting onto the shoulder. We on the shoulder with our hazards on. I get rear-ended by a drunk driver. Long story short, he got a DUI. And we're stuck trying to find another car. At the time, I was already wanting to get rid of my Dodge Ram that was a lease. I didn't want to deal with the payment anymore. I wanted something just to be payment free, pay for it cash out of pocket, and be good to go all the time. I still wanted to be able to tow. I wanted a diesel, and I wanted it to be 4-wheel drive. I looked at a lot of Land Cruisers that were diesel converted. I thought about the potential chance of getting a right-hand drive diesel Land Cruiser. I bid on so many of them on Bring a Trailer, and I lost 6 different Land Cruisers. I went from the mid-80s, so FJ62, to the FJ80 that was either LS3 or diesel swap. Those are the only things that I was looking for. Every single one of them went over 40 grand, and I was like, I don't want to be that much money out of pocket on a used old truck. So this came into the picture. This did cost about $20,000, but it only has 120,000 miles, or at the time when I bought it, it had 120,000 miles. It's already been ARP studded. It's already got the replacement EGR cooler. Only thing left to be fully bulletproofed is to switch over to their oil system. So that's next on the list of things to deal with for this truck. In the 5,000 miles that I've owned this so far, we've already been through some shit. We took a small family trip to Joshua Tree, and I was like, oh, that's cool, let's go off the beaten path and like take a trail and see how it does. And we're just cruising. The tires were aired down to like the mid-30s. It was 90 degrees out, so they were probably a little hotter than I anticipated. And we're just coasting along through, and all of a sudden I hit a sandbar and we're stuck. I don't have any recovery gear. The girls are in the car, Mabel's in the car, we have the AC on, we just leave the truck on idling, and I was like, holy shit. I don't know if 4-wheel drive works at this point. I've never tested it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to actuate everything. Previously, I had a FJ Cruiser that was 4-wheel drive, but that was the easiest thing in the world. I literally put it in neutral, switch it to 4 low, 4 high, turn A-track on, and let the clutch out, and that truck did everything I needed it to do for me. This one, I had to turn the hubs, put it on 4 low, and hope and pray that everything fucking works the way it's supposed to. So I cranked the wheel to the left, and it pulled me straight out of the sandbar, and I was like, okay, shit, that was scary. So enough of that. Let's go back to the Airbnb and just relax and chill for the rest of the weekend. Another portion of that trip, my radiator actually blew. We're driving back from Joshua Tree, and I'm like, my water temp's getting pretty fucking high. I've already been daily driving the truck at this point regularly. We actually took it to Willow Springs on a really hot day, there and back, to like just do a test. We're like, okay, it's gonna be a 2-hour trip there, 2-hour trip back. It's the same distance for us to go to Joshua Tree and back. So I was like, let's just take the truck. At least we will be unloaded. It's just me and Mabel, and we're good to go. And it was fine. I'm not that loaded with a ton of gear. It's a couple small luggages and 4 people. And temps start going up 215, 216, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Come to find out, my radiator actually split at the top of the plastic end tank that was actually covered by the factory shroud piece where it says 6.0 turbo diesel, power stroke, whatever. It was just concealing the fact that it was spitting the water out and just, it was evaporating. It wasn't going anywhere. There was no water leak underneath. I actually had the hood up, idling, and because there was no load, and the system wasn't really that well pressurized at the time, it wouldn't spit it out anywhere. So I was like, shit. I just topped it off with some like ambient temp distilled water, put 3 gallons in it, and I was like, that's a lot of water. I looked up the coolant capacity and it's like 5.5 gallons. I was like, shit, it lost a lot of water. So I was like, damn, okay, I hope we make it back because we're fully loaded right now with the girls in the back and we just want to make it home. So thankfully we made it home. All right, I'm gonna lean into a little bit more as to why I picked this big ass SUV that's behind me. I originally had thought that I was gonna be back into a Toyota SUV. So I was looking at 80 series Land Cruisers. I was looking at the mid 2000s and even the 2014-ish Toyota 4Runners. I do know a couple friends that have those. They love them. They're great for kids. It's actually great for camping. You could tow a little bit, but being that I wanted to eventually be towing my IS250 race car behind this truck, I knew I needed something that was a little bit more capable. At some point, it's probably been 8-9 years now, I think. Daryl actually bought a 2005 Ford Excursion that already had all the head gaskets done, had everything gone through, and it was also a limited package, and it was super nice. I drove it around a little bit when we were just changing wheels and tires and just modifying it a little bit to his taste, and I actually really loved it. That was back then, before I was even into like having a diesel dually or any other diesel truck that I've had since then. When it came time to look for a new car, I was like, why don't I just start looking for Excursions? And I sent a couple pictures over to the family and they're like, it's kind of cool. Like I sent them some lifted ones and some modified ones, and it just, nobody could really grasp the idea of why I wanted such a big ass SUV. This thing has captain's chairs, a third row that is completely usable. You have as much leg room in the third row as you do in the second row, and it tows 10,000 pounds. So when I get that trailer and the car loaded up with the spares and extra wheels, this thing's gonna have no issue pulling that. This is the generation that actually has a 5-speed automatic transmission with overdrive, so it technically acts as a 6-speed. That overdrive ratio is the same as an Allison 5-speed. So with the updates that I'm doing right now and the new gear ratio with the new tire size, I'm going to be at about the same RPM as what I was currently with the factory 373 gears and the 33-inch tires. We've had the truck already completely dismantled in the front end. We're gonna take care and tackle everything to do with the front end. We've already gotten the front axle cleaned up, painted, and prepped to be installed. We are currently figuring out what holes need to be drilled to install these new fabricated spring buckets from PMF Suspension. And again, a huge thank you to Trevor over there at PMF because he really hooked it up, and a lot of this stuff was available in stock, or it was just a 2 to 3 week time delay, which is unheard of in the Japanese custom car industry, because all the parts that we need for the Japanese cars, if it's coming from overseas, it's taking months.
If we have to overnight parts from Japan,
and if it's not already on the boat or on the water on its way here, you're waiting 6 to 8 months to see those parts. But on this truck, or trucks in general, all the stuff is extremely heavy duty. It does have to support a ton of weight. So I chose all the new front end parts because I wanted to just do this one time and one time only. I don't want to have to go in and then upgrade later. There's a truck that I was modeling mine after, and when he did the 05 to 07 axle upgrade in the front, he chose basically everything off the shelf that he could from Icon, and then whatever he could use from a factory 05 to 07 truck. So he used the factory spring buckets, the factory track bar mount. The only thing he did go custom with that I saw and what he mentioned was the long arm 4-link suspension. So he went fully custom with that based on the articulation that he wanted for his truck. Now he wheels a lot harder than anybody I've ever seen in an Excursion, and that thing really goes everywhere. It articulates like crazy. He's also on 37-inch Cooper tires, which we're gonna show our new setup for this truck shortly, but I chose to just go all out, one time ollie. Everything from PMF is the fabricated spring, well, it's not even a spring bucket, it is a true coilover bucket that has the mount provisions for a secondary shock or bump shock later if I decide to add one. It has the PMF fabricated track bar mount, their tie rod bar, their drag link, their track bar, their long arm 4-link kit, their conversion brake lines for mating the brake lines from 99 to 04 truck into the 05 to 07 brake caliper, so that way it's straightforward. When we do that, I am going to flush the entire brake system because I am now going to have new front and rear brake lines. I've been wanting to flush the brake system because the fluid looks a little dirty now. That's just going to be the perfect time to do it. For the front suspension coilover or shock modification, I decided to go with the PMF dual rate king coilover. So it's already spec'd for a diesel 4-wheel drive truck. It is a dual rate spring. Right now I don't know what the rates are. I haven't unboxed the springs, but I do have to get them assembled and prepped so that way we can hang the axles with the new coilover mounts. And I also do need to go ahead and head on over to Carli Raised Off-Road because we're actually starting off with a great relationship. I have a bunch of parts that I got ordered through Morgan over there, and they've been really helpful in getting us spec'd and sorted on the parts that we need. He's getting us set up with the Carli rear leaf package and King rear shock package for this truck because generally Carli doesn't like to separate their lift packages. So they have an Excursion kit that's front and rear, but you have to buy the complete kit. Now, thankfully, with their relationship with Carli, he was really able to hook it up and get me the whole rear half of the lift package. On the rear, it's going to be Carli leaf pack with a Carli custom tuned and stroke King shock with a remote reservoir. And I will have to take the front shocks with a remote reservoir over to them so that way they can be charged with the nitrogen at the correct PSI for what I need on the truck. We're going to go ahead and get some more updates on the truck and see how we move forward here and see what kind of headaches we run into because again, this is a conversion from the 99 to 04 front leaf spring setup to the full radius arm, now 4-link setup in the front end to use a coilover bracket and the long arm 4-link, new track bar, dual King steering stabilizers. I forgot I got that also from PMF. So that is specifically tuned for the front end of this truck as well. My goals for this truck when I'm finished is really just gonna be a mall crawler. I'm just gonna go on curbs, dude. I'm going on curbs, I'm done. No, the goal with this truck is, like I mentioned when I got stuck in Joshua Tree, I don't want that shit. I have some other modifications that I'm doing to the front axle of this thing that's really gonna prevent me from that ever happening again. If the engine and transmission are as reliable as I need them to be, which they will be, because there's a couple more things I'm going to be doing to the drivetrain to make it more bulletproof, because it's partially there. It has the new TIG welded oil cooler. It has the ARP head studs with new head gaskets. All that's already been finished. But what I need to do now is convert to their oil system. So that'll have a external oil filter and their separated oil cooler. So that oil cooler will not be underneath that valley, which tends to fail and gunk up and get clogged, and it's actually already giving me a little bit of an issue where my oil temps are a hell of a lot higher than my coolant temps, and I hate seeing that because being from the track world and seeing like drifting, when you're on limiter and my water temp is hitting 220, I'm lucky to see my oil temp hit 200, 205, and that's me hitting limiter. I was seeing 235 oil temps cruising on the freeway in Joshua Tree. It shouldn't be that way. That was just way too fucking hot. Depending on where the oil temp sensor is, that my actual oil temperature going into the turbo to supposedly cool it, because it's oil and water cooled, is around 250. And the oil that's in this truck has a breakdown point at about 259. I want to do like more routine oil changes. I check it every 1,500 miles to see how it's doing and how it looks. Diesel oil tends to get really dirty fairly quickly. But with the new oil system, I want to make sure that this motor lives a longer life, because I don't want to deal with rebuilding it or swapping it or doing any of that shit, because this thing actually has a ton of power, a ton of torque, and I don't really need anything else. So the goal for this truck is to go out there and use it with the kids and be out there and be in the back. If we need the space, remove the third row, put a freaking air mattress in there, and have a roof rack that has all our gear, or have a roof tent and then have all our gear on a basket on the hitch. Like, we have all these options with this truck. I don't really want to do a daily driven 37-inch tire that's hanging on the back of my truck, because I want to daily drive this. This is still my grocery getter, so I can hop on curbs too. I don't want to put a spare tire in the back because that's really going to extend the amount of overhang. This is already as long as like your mid-length bed crew cab trucks. If it's more than a long bed with the spare tire carrier and all that stuff in the back, it makes it a lot harder to park. I already park far away and then just walk to the grocery store because it's like, who cares? Like, I also don't like getting door dings. Being that this truck is so damn wide and big, parking it next to everybody else that doesn't give a shit about their car nearly as much as I do, it's bound to happen that I'm just gonna get a door swung into it and then I have to deal with that shit. And I don't want to. I'm always gonna park far away, but I also wanna limit the amount of overhang I have in the back when I'm daily driving it. Now, when I go out on a trip, there is an attachment that actually goes onto this hitch. I won't be able to trailer it at the same time, but at least just cruising along, I could always put the spare tire in the back of the cargo area, just laying flat on the ground, and put a plank on it, and then I could load up the rest of the gear on top of the spare tire. So I have all these options because of how much space there is in this massive SUV. And that's the best thing. We can have all that cargo, and unless someone's shattering a window on the side of the truck, they're not getting into the back of this thing. It's fully locked, it's sealed, it's good to go. I do this in a pickup truck and it's sticking out of the bed. I'm not leaving shit in the back of the truck. Every time I get home from a long trip, I have to unload everything. And if we just spent 3 to 5 hours driving back home, I really don't want to do that. I'm over it. I just want to park in front of the house, go inside, take my main bag out, and take a shower before I start unloading. I don't want to worry about the stuff that's in the back of the truck. All right, this is as far as we've gotten in the 2 days on the Excursion conversion. The spring coilover buckets that are fabricated from PMF, actually it's not a spring bucket, it's a coilover bucket because it only holds a coilover, it doesn't hold a coil spring. It has to be an eyelet. Those are installed and fitted. We need to go ahead and figure out what other holes need to be drilled and modified into the frame rail so we could update that hardware. We've got the track bar mount installed and fitted up there. We have the long arm 4-link bracket sort of mocked up, but I am missing the factory radius arm bracket for an 05 to 07 F250, F350. So until I get those in from PMF suspension, we're kind of on standby with the front end, so we're really focusing on getting all the rest of the pieces to the puzzle assembled and prepped and ready. That means getting the axle painted, getting the rear axle prepped, and the Carli leaf springs for the rear axle are actually showing up today, along with the brake line conversion that I need from PMF is also showing up today. The one thing we are going to be missing, which is going to be another 8 weeks out, but it's not going to hinder the progress on the truck, is the King rear shock conversion from Carli. Those are 8 to 12 weeks out. I ordered them 2 weeks ago. We have to wait for those, but luckily I have a brand new set of Bilstein shocks that came with the truck that was set up to be for a 4 or 5 inch rear lift. So when I put the Carli leaf springs on the back, I can temporarily run the truck with the Bilstein shocks until I get those new King shocks with the remote reservoirs for the back. That is their own specific shock from Carli, valved and set up and tuned for an Excursion with their leaf pack. So I really wanted to go with that setup because they really fine-tune their suspensions and everything that they suspect to see in a daily driver along with off-roading. They also offer a long travel rear airbag system for the Excursion, which I might think about at a later date. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and get this stuff situated. This is where we stand right now. On the next video, you guys are really gonna see this thing start to transform. We're gonna bring over the new wheels and tires, have the leaf springs, prep and paint the rear axle, and try to get this thing back on the ground by the end of next week. So this is our venture on doing daily driver projects. This is my current daily driver. We have a bunch of other projects in here, and those H2 diesel conversions, I've actually been daily driving that one around just to work out the kinks or see if anything comes up that's crucial that Daryl needs to handle before he decides to daily drive that Hummer as a secondary backup car to his Sienna. We've got JDM cars, we've got client cars in the background. If this is something you guys want to see more of, let us know in the comments. We'll keep posting builds like this, and we'll see you guys next time. So then we'll do the same thing for Cali Rays, but I want to do a walkthrough because their fucking showroom is sick. Like, it's like, have you been to Evasive with me inside?
Yeah.
Not their warehouse, the front. Like where it has kind of some stuff on display, but not a lot.
Yeah,
like there's like small display pieces.
Yeah.
So their display is like super auto box, like back in the early 2000s when like the JDM stores, like Up Garage in Japan, where it has like everything on racks and like the wheels and tires and like, dude, it's so sick. And it's all for trucks and overlanding and lighting. They're actually really big at Cali Rays with lighting. So they're one of the innovators for Harley specific light upgrades, and they carry anti-gravity batteries, all the chargers, they carry all the Baja, all the KC, all the Rotopacks, BDS suspension, King shocks. They have all this shit on display on their wall.
That's cool.
It's like, yeah, it's super cool. They have a hatchet that's hanging on there that has a cool tag. We'll show them that because it's just funny. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's like clever advertising when you put, it's like big ass hatchet or something like that, you know, so just cool shit that off-road guys love. Oh yeah, I almost started it with the way that Dan loves.
Alright, so...
Yeah. Alright, so. What's up?
What's up, guys?
There's a guy that I follow that is non-stop about that on his reels. He's like, what's up guys, Ray here. On every reel. Doing these videos makes me realize how annoying that is. But you can't, it's just the consistency of the same, you know how you're gonna start every time. So it's like, now like with my alright so being gone,
Off limits.
it's off limits. Alright, so I have, so it's like, so enough of that. So I was like, shit. So I was like, damn, SoCal, so for now. Okay, so, alright, so, yeah, so one of the, fuck you.
No, James's kids can't watch this
Nope,
anymore.
can't use that part.
Yep.
Dan, cut it.
Cut.